guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, my name is Lexi. I will pop my Instagram up above as always, but thank you guys for joining me in today's video. And so today's video, I'm gonna title it I'm not sure what I'm gonna title it yet, but it's gonna be something along the lines of catch up with me, chit chat, girl chat. I'm not quite sure yet. It'll be something like that. But one of you guys actually about a week or two ago messaged me and asked if I would be interested in ever starting my own podcast, like just a solo podcast. So those of you who have followed me for a while know that I am a part of the Pro Physique Code podcast. It's always linked in the description box below. But, I was thinking, I'm like, that would be so fun. But honestly, between YouTube, being on a podcast already, my Instagram and coaching and everything else, I just don't know if I would have time. When I start something, I always like to commit to it too, and not just I wouldn't want to be one of those people that just put out an episode like every month or put out a couple episodes right off the get-go and then never showed face again. So I figured, you know what, to kind of spin on that topic, I'm gonna make a video like this video, and it's just gonna be a little chit chat. It's gonna be essentially play me in the background right now as you're meal prepping or you're cleaning your house, just like a little chit chat, girl chat, kind of like it's you and I sitting down together and chatting. So this video is just going to be kind of full of a ton of random stuff that I'm just going to chat about. I made like a list literally yesterday as I was on my walk of certain things I just that have been on my mind and I wanted to just chat about, vent about. So without further ado, let's get this video rolling. I'll start with a little bit of a catch up with me, kind of an update on me, where I'm at. I know a lot of you guys follow me for competing purposes. You guys have seen I've documented both of my preps on here before. So I'll start with just a little life catch up first. All right, so to start with a little catch up with me, so I am full on in my building era and my non-prep era. Now, don't get me wrong. That does not mean I'm just doing whatever the hell I want right now, not training, not tracking my macros, not watching what I eat. That could not be further from the truth. I am literally still a robot. I feel like when it comes to going to the gym, my training intensity has never been as amazing as it is. My relationship with food is in such a good spot. I feel like I'm in a really good spot with my food right now. But I am not, what I mean by full on not in my prepping era is I am not stepping on stage this year. I am definitely not one of those athletes that just competes year after year after year. I generally do take a longer off season, mainly because I would say the biggest part of that is because I am an athlete where my feedback is build, grow, and it takes me a little bit longer to put on muscle than I would say some other people. So that's why I have spent this whole year so far continuing to build and grow, and I'm gonna spend the rest of the year doing just that. And also, I think there's a lot to be said too for when you are not in prep, I feel like for the most part, I feel like I manage things pretty well when I am in prep from a coaching standpoint or a job standpoint. I always tell myself I would absolutely never let prep compromise my ability to be a coach. I am a coach first and an athlete second. But you know what? There's a lot to be said for when you're not in prep. You have a lot more energy to give. You can travel more. I've been enjoying, doing a lot more with my clients, doing a lot more extra, giving a lot of extra information to them through team webinars and things like that. I've been traveling more. I've been spending more time with friends and family, and honestly, I'm just enjoying that. So I am going to spend the remainder of this year building, and then probably nothing set in stone, but probably look at starting prep towards the beginning of the year if everything is in a good spot to do so, and if I've made the changes that I need to make to actually show up next year on stage looking like a different athlete. So that's a little catch up with me. So now we're gonna get into the very random part of the video where honestly, like I said, I made some notes yesterday when I was on my walk about things I just wanted to literally chit chat about. So if I had my own podcast and I was just doing a full on girl chat, these would be some of the things I would just kind of banter about. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, first thing that has just been on my mind. So, and some of these things I'm going to talk about, I feel are a little controversial, but that's why we're talking about them. I want to hear your guys' opinions and thoughts on some of these things. And honestly, after watching this, please comment below. I'd love to hear some of your guys' insight on just some of the things I'm about to talk about. But first thing I wanted to talk about is I was just thinking to myself when I was walking, and honestly, this is not me calling out anybody by any means. There was no one person that came to mind when thinking about this, but I feel I think we've all seen it. We've all seen the competitors out there that compete one time and then they never do it again, which is fine. But then what they do is they blame competing for ruining their relationship with food. And I don't know. I feel pretty strongly about that because I think you as an athlete have to take accountability for what you're getting yourself into. You need to do your research before competing. If you don't have a good relationship with your body and with food before competing, that's on you if you get into competing. You have to know that competing is probably not going to make that any better, right? But I feel like a lot of people too, furthermore, you see a lot of people who essentially fall off the wagon post-show and in the reverse diet. They just don't, they essentially have a failed reverse diet. And I feel like a lot of times those are the same people that are blaming competing for, oh, competing gave me an eating disorder. Oh, competing ruined my life. And it's like, no, take accountability. There's nothing wrong with taking accountability. And I feel like as like a general population, not just competitors, but like just generally humans in general just don't know how to take accountability. And I feel like one of my biggest pet peeves. And so, but I feel like a lot of times, like I will see people, and again, I can't even think of anybody in particular. I was just kind of thinking about this, this topic and this idea as I was walking the other day. That's sometimes where my thoughts come. But I was like, I feel like a lot of people just blame and they don't want to take accountability for their failed reverse diet. And like, hey, I screwed up. I didn't follow through. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Just like take accountability and don't blame and confuse your failed reverse diet with competing ruining your life, right? And I think a lot of times like athletes need to take accountability. And I'm not saying like there are some coaches out there that are not good coaches that run some of these athletes into the ground, but like also we have to realize as an athlete, we have to take accountability at some point, right? That's what's gonna make you better as an athlete. But anyways, that is my like first little ramble and first little topic that, for this girl chat. So moving on to the second thing. So I don't know about you guys, but again, another maybe controversial thing. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. That's why I'm talking about this. I just wanna know, like, does anybody else out there sometimes have these thoughts as well? So I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I have noticed such an influx. It's not even really recently. It's more so just like, I don't know, and it could just be some of the people I follow, right? But I have noticed an influx in people on social media just sharing and almost like, I don't want to say bragging, but like boasting about how much they made in a month or their income. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I grew up with my parents always saying and like ingraining in us, like your income is, it's not like it's a secret for the whole world, but like it's also like don't go out there and scream to the rooftops, hey, I made this much this month, or I made this much this year, right? Like I get it if you're proud, that's awesome. But I don't know about you guys. I was just kind of raised that like your income is not something that should be like public information. Like I don't even, like when I was a kid growing up, I didn't just flat out even ask my parents like, hey, how much do you make? Like I don't know. We never had that discussion. I was always kind of raised to like, just, I don't know, be taught that income is not something that you just go out there and you share. But I just feel like, I don't know if it's this generation, if it's just some people I follow on social media, but I feel like there is this influx of people just being like, I made this much this month. They're like posting a screenshot of their bank statement. I'm just like, I don't get that. Like, I just don't think I could ever do that. I don't know, just because of the way I was raised, I feel like that is supposed to be somewhat private information. At least it's not information I personally feel like you need to like put out on your social media. I don't know, maybe it's just me. I'd be curious to hear what you guys think. So comment below. All right, the next thing I'm gonna get into, and I feel very fiery about this one. I made a post on my Instagram. Well, not a post, it was a story post this week. And it was of a picture of alcohol in the alcohol aisle at the store. And I said something along the lines of, sometimes I literally just walk through the grocery store and I'll look at the price of alcohol and I'll just think to myself, thank goodness you've never been a drinker because you save so much damn money. And I don't know if you guys have ever had that epiphany. Not that it's like an epiphany, but do you guys just like truthfully, do you ever think about how unnecessarily expensive alcohol is? Like when you really think about it, and let me just start off by prefacing, like I am not somebody who's like anti-alcohol. Like I have just never, like I've drank before, but I am not somebody who drinks regularly. And like honestly, it's not something that I even prefer to do. I don't even like the taste of a lot of alcoholic beverages, nor is there literally any pros that come from drinking alcohol. Like if you really think about it, this is like, I could totally go off on such a tangent because this is such a flaw in society, in my opinion. Like, I just don't get why and how alcohol became such a big thing in our society. Like, when you really think about it, it provides no pros besides the fact of like, it provides a little bit of like temporary instant gratification for some people. And it's like, it's just such a societal norm, and it really bugs me that it is that way, because I know I talk to my athletes and my clients all the time about, you know, alcohol. And again, I'm not somebody that's like anti-alcohol, you can never drink, but I've had so many clients even tell me too, like they've given up alcohol and they feel so much better. And it's like, it's so true. Not only do you feel so much better, but you save so much freaking money. I mean, I just think of like how much money some people spend on alcohol. Like if you're grabbing, you know, a $20 case of whatever alcohol at the store a few times a week, or like even just, you know, twice a week, like that's like $40, $50 a week. And like, not to mention when people go out to eat, I feel like the alcoholic beverages that people order when they're at a bar, at a club, or at a restaurant, that is so freaking expensive. And I just honestly, sometimes I'm like, gosh, Lexi, that is like, that you save so much money by not drinking, right? I mean, of course we all have our things we spend on, right? But I just feel like alcohol, truthfully, like I said, I could go on such a tangent with this, but it's like, there is literally no pro to drinking alcohol. I just don't get it. Like, why did it become such a thing in our society? People spend so much money on it. It's just, I don't know. I could go on a whole tangent, but just another thought that popped into my head. So another little Lexi thought that I wanted to share with you guys. And then lastly, I wanted to wrap up the video, and I did want to, like the other week I was considering just doing a full video on this, but I wanted to talk a little bit about mental health, because I feel like this is such a, I don't know if taboo is the right word, but it is a subject that, one, I feel like there are some people that like don't actually talk about their mental health, and not that they need to. I am not saying everybody needs to like be open about that, but sometimes it can be very deceiving. Like you see people on social media that do come across as being very, very happy people, and like maybe they live this perfect life, but honestly, you just never know what's going on behind closed doors. They could also be the saddest individual, right? Or the individual who's struggling the most with their mental health. So, you know, there's that side of it, but I also feel like sometimes in our society today, there are some people that almost like claim to have an issue with their mental health just because, kind of going back to what I said at the beginning of the video, they just don't want to take accountability for their behavior or their actions. So they'll kind of blame it on like, oh, I have this, or oh, I have this. And it's like that, I feel like there's also an issue there, but going back to what I just said again, what I just said about, you know, there's some people out there that on social media, whether it's Instagram, whether it's YouTube, whether it's TikTok, you know, you may look at them and think, wow, they have their shit together. They live this perfect world. And honestly, I think for a lot of people that, you know, that's definitely not the truth. You know, I think about my social media and like what I want people to get from it. And I think for me, it comes down to two things mainly. One, I want people to always get value and, you know, education from what they're seeing that I'm posting on my social media. So I post a lot of client transformations. I post a lot of, you know, informative things. And I try to also, though, something else that is really important to me that I want people to get from my social media is like, I want you guys to always think of me as being very real and authentic. And, you know, of course, there are certain things in my life that I do keep private, rightfully so. But I also don't want to just be one of those people who's kind of like always just being like overly positive, if that makes sense. Like I also want to be very honest with you guys when maybe I'm struggling, because I don't want you guys to ever just be like, oh, she lives this like perfect life, she's so perfect. Because guys, I could not be farther from the truth. And I think we can all attest to the fact that we all have our own internal battles that sometimes we just don't share. And again, I'm not, and also like before I get into this, I'm not saying any of this for anybody to feel bad for me or anything like that, because my problems are honestly so small compared to other people's problems out there, if I'm being very honest. But this is just me being open and real with you guys, like girl chat. So I feel like last week and the week before, I was kind of struggling a little bit mentally with my mental health. And like, let me kind of explain to you what I mean by that. So I feel like I'm almost at that point in my life where my birthday's here in a couple months, and I don't know if I'm the only weirdo, but I just don't really love my birthday. Like, I just don't know why it is. I think as I've gotten older, I don't love my birthday because it's like, oh, I'm another year older, right? And I know I'm not old, but I think that I'm also at this phase in my life where it's like, I think we all, when we're like younger and when we're kids, we have this sometimes like timeline we put out for ourselves by like, oh, this age I'm gonna do this, by this age I'm gonna have kids, by this age I'm gonna get married, all of that. And sometimes, you know, when you approach those certain ages, it sounds so silly. And like, I know that like timelines, screw timelines, there's no such thing as a perfect timeline, but sometimes, you know, I'll think to myself, wow, like I should be doing this by this age, or I should be doing that, you know, and it's like, And sometimes it's just hard as you get older to realize, oh, okay, I'm not accomplishing, or maybe not even accomplishing, but I'm not, I didn't get married at this age like I thought I would, when I was 15. And I know that sounds so silly, but mentally, like mental health wise, I feel like those things have kind of been weighing on me the past like couple of weeks. And again, my problems are so slim compared to some people, like other people's out there, but everybody's problems are relative, right? I think you have to validate what you're feeling, and not just always like ignore it, or invalidate it. But and sometimes mentally that really gets to me. And I find that especially living alone, I love living alone, don't get me wrong, but sometimes when I'm struggling mentally and pairing that with being alone, it can almost make me get more in my thoughts and more in my head and a little bit more down on myself. So this week has been it's been a good mental health week for the most part. But like even last week, I was like, all right, I need to get out. I need to be around people, because otherwise I am just going to continue to have this pity party for myself and play this victim mindset and be in my head and be in my thoughts and and just mentally be feeling down. And I knew that if I had stayed in my apartment and I was, alone, it was only going to make things worse. So I had to kind of force myself to go out, be around people, and honestly, it made me feel so much better too. But I don't even know if any of that made sense or if that was just a ton of word vomit. But point is, I struggle with my own mental health battles from time to time. Again, my problems are probably very slim compared to others, but I know that some people may look at my social media or even watch me on here and perceive oh, she's got it all together or whatnot. But honestly, I try, but it's also I struggle too. I'm just not always putting it out there, because I also don't want my social media to always just be I don't want you guys to always feel like I'm complaining or being negative. I don't want you to go to my social media and feel sad or feel negative after watching things, right? But just being very real with you guys, I struggle too, I promise. And I love living alone, but sometimes I feel like when mentally I'm really struggling, living alone is almost harder because it gives you more time to just be in your thoughts, if that makes sense. So I've identified at this point, whenever I am feeling kind of in a certain mood or just feeling very somber and I can't get myself out of it, I need to get out. I need to be around people, whether it's friends, whether it's even just going to the gym and being around friends there, or being with family, like my mom who lives a little ways away but still somewhat close. So that's my little spiel on that. We all struggle, guys. We all have our internal battles, whether or not we're putting it out there or not. All right, so this is gonna wrap up my little spiel. This was such a random video, and honestly, if I'm being very transparent, a little outside of my comfort zone, because it's just so different from anything I've ever done. It's literally just me sitting here doing girl chat and just talking about a ton of random ish. So it is a little outside of my comfort zone to put this out there. But if you guys like these styles of videos, please let me know, because I love recording this. It's fun. It kind of feels like I'm talking with a friend. So if you guys like this, please comment below and I will take that feedback into account and keep this style of video coming frequently. But if you guys have made it this far, I appreciate you listening. As I mentioned at the beginning, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on some of these things I mentioned. So please comment below if you have any thoughts just pertaining to anything I talked about. I think that's kind of what could potentially make these videos fun. So anyways, I hope that you guys have a great day wherever you are at in the world and whatever day and time it is. And I will catch you guys in my next video.